Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher Review Show. My name's Julian Balance, joined as always by Nick Ashman up in Sydney. Nico, how was the weekend?
It was okay. It was a bit of a battle. I came out just in front.
Good.
Sort of got a couple of good results early and then it just petered off late. But fortunately, there was enough in the tank to get us across the line ahead. But how about you?
Solid.
Survived the Bool?
Yeah, well, I was Bool by the pool for me, so I didn't go to the Bool, which was
I saw that.
enjoyable. Sat poolside. We'll talk about the Bool a little bit later, just in the fact that my turnover myself was really down. I found it really tricky to find winners, but that's overall what Warrnambool is. So I sort of tried to pick the eyes out, and that was okay. We survived that. Okay on Saturday. Footy did me some favours with the AFL, as I know you push into the NRL a little bit. I'm pushing heavily into the AFL and finding some edges and angles there. So it's a bit of fun. Let's get back to racing because Hawkesbury had their day in the sun. Might not have been that sunny because we're on a heavy 8. How do we think the track played? Because I know you had some intel and it was probably not too far away from the truth, my friend.
Yeah, it was spot on this week. So we said lanes 5 and beyond will provide the bulkier winners. 9 of the 10 winners at Hawkesbury were in lanes 5 and beyond. What I will say is we noticed as the track dried out, the straight was just a little bit faster than the bend. So perhaps the 600 to 400 metre area was just that little bit wetter. So I've used this analogy before and you've laughed at me, but I'm going to use it again. It's like the medley in the swimming when everyone's doing breaststroke and the leaders turn and start doing freestyle. The margin between those that turn first and those that don't is exacerbated because when you're doing freestyle, you're moving faster than those doing breaststroke. And that's kind of what happened at Hawkesbury late in the day. The ones that got to the straight sooner, so the leaders and on-pace runners, they were able to kick that half a length or a length further ahead whilst their counterparts were battling through slightly inferior ground getting into the home straight. So it was what we call a traditional up and off, particularly in the second half of the card, Jules.
Yeah, no, it's a good analogy, and we've used it before actually, and also with Moonee Valley, sometimes you see the straight actually a lot quicker than, say, the 800 to the 400 when they're getting into that. So your analogy, even though you might think I laugh at it, it's actually very good, and I think punters need to keep it in mind going forward. Let's go to the Hen House here. So a race that you've identified that you think, okay, well, it's actually rated pretty well, but also going forward, we think the market might gravitate towards it. It might be one that even maybe just not even only the winner, but horses that have finished in behind the winner that we can follow with a bit of confidence. It's race 7.
Media World, that's right. Media World led all the way in the Hawkesbury Guineas. Now, this is a race that has thrown up some handy horses over the years. Sincero came through this race and went on to win a Stradbroke about 10 or so years ago. And it's thrown out some other pretty handy runners in the last decade. So, and in fact, this meeting, the Clarendon Stakes is another one, Zoostar and Zardozi. Even though it's a standalone meeting at Hawkesbury, we can get some pretty good horses on their way through. Meteor was an interesting one. She resumed first up this preparation in the midweeks and ran really fast time. There's been some form come out of it. She went to Hawkesbury on Saturday with the heavy track query alongside her name. She led all the way here. Yes, we spoke about how perhaps it was a little advantage to be forward of midfield, particularly towards that second half of the card. But she still run good overall time here off what we call a moderate tempo. She's about 0.2 of a second inside standard time, maybe a fraction less than that. So just a good even gallop throughout. The sectionals late were really good. The last 200 metres was sort of 2 lengths better than what we expect from this grade. It ranked 13th for the day. And I think for a horse that led, albeit only on a moderate tempo, that's a good sign. If you're leading and still running sort of around top 10 late splits for the day, it's a good positive sign. So I think we can follow her. We'll talk about another horse out of that race that we're going to follow going forward. This is, I think, a decent race to keep an eye on.
Yep.
I think that there's probably first 5 or 6 across the line are horses that can win at their next run if they're placed accordingly. Beautiful.
So that's the Hen House this week for Hawkesbury. Let's get to the hits and misses here, Nico, from the PointsBet trading floor. So I'm going to go through these, which you do every week, just to say, okay, did this horse have their moment in the sun and that's why it was backed, or is there something in the guts of the performance that we might want to continue following? So let's start with the first, because there was a bit of a hit here. Jumeirah Beach was $13 into $5.50, and it might have been an open, flat sort of race, but the market wanted to be with it. Did it have its birthday, or is there some guts to it?
Well, I think there is some guts to it. Like the overall time here was pretty good. It was a really fast tempo. They went out, they went through the first sort of 600 metres or so, about 8 lengths above standard. So they ran really fast. I think what the market gravitated towards here was a horse that was coming off, a handful of sort of 15-mile races and was hard fit, could handle a wet track.
Yep.
And that's where the market gravitated towards. And he looked gone a couple of times up the straight but kept on rallying, which is pretty typical of a hard fit horse in those conditions.
Would you think if this horse went to a dry track, this is just for the punters out there because I'm always worried about this, you get that really heavy track and then, as you said, it's a hard fit horse, it's had the grounding. Then if it was to hit a really dry track next start, is that one you probably avoid, but if it can stay on a heavy track, you probably want to be with it because it is that hard fit horse?
I think the query now, Jules, is just what was he? What is he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th run in a preparation. He's had a bit of a gut buster on a heavy track. I probably don't really want to touch him full stop.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
You can have whatever track you want. You can put him on AstroTurf. Yeah, you could put him on AstroTurf and I wouldn't back him, so we'll let him go. That's
Very
not to
good.
say he can't win. I want to make that really clear, but I wouldn't back him.
Yep. Let's get to race 2. There was 2 horses I want to identify here that were backed, and I just want to see if there's anything that we should be following here because they were both unplaced. They were Call Me Terry 9 into $4.80 and Straight Fire $14 into $5.50. So they wanted to back these sort of middle pinners into really competitive prices at the death. Is either of those got anything about them, or was it just they just wanted to bear with them? Maybe there was some type of form line they liked.
Call Me Terry is a wet tracker. So first of all, that's why the market gravitated towards this gelding by territories. So the breed do typically handle it. As you know, I'm breeding buff for wet tracks
I know.
now.
Yeah, I read that article again the other day.
I bet you did. It's your bedtime reading. Cures insomnia, they tell me. His career peak figure, or his best figure this preparation was first up not first up, but third up, I think it was, at Scone, this preparation on a heavy 10. And I think the market just went, well, hang on, we're going to see the best of him today. Whether it's good enough, we don't know, but we're going to see the best of him. Sometimes that's good enough to have a bet. With Straight Fire, the mare, she was a little bit different. I sort of can't really put my finger on why they backed her. She was second up 1,500 metres on a heavy track. She's probably the one I want to keep an eye on because I couldn't really see a reason for them to be backing her. Now, her first up run over 1,300 metres was a high rating race. It was at Canberra. It was an open at Canberra, and they broke standard time by 5.5 lengths there. She was about a length off them in the finish. So maybe it was just sort of gravitating towards that fast overall time. But typically second up, 1,500 metres on a testing track, the market will push those runners out. So I think it's interesting. I'll be keeping an eye on her going forward.
That's a really good point, one for the punters out there, that Straight Fire, although unplaced on Saturday, might be one we keep in our back pocket. Race 6, Candlewick, $7 into $4.80. Again, miss, unplaced. What are we doing here?
Well, this is obviously what we thought was close to race of the day, or the race of the day. Market here by Piero, look, had one start on a soft track, I think it was, earlier in its career. I'm just trying to think now. I think it was its debut at Wyong, and it rated quite well. So I think the market might have gone, okay, the first up run, it was a big drifter. That was at Warwick Farm, and it still got the job done. Now second up, dropped 5 kilos, gets onto a track where maybe it's a real mudlark. So I think the market just had a crack that the moons might have aligned. Didn't quite pan out for the galloper. Sort of settled midfield and just never really came on. Couldn't find too many excuses there. Maybe will be an improver back onto a drier track.
Very good. Race 8, the next 2 we're going to go through actually hit here. Race 8, Punch Lane, $4 into $2.25 is a hit. And we'll keep it together with race 10, Cool Jakey, $5.50 into $3.20. We'll leave Punch Lane because we've got the death of this show. We're going to talk about Punch Lane and just maybe a bit of a friendly reminder for us at this time of the year. But Cool Jakey, $5.50 into $3.20, big hit.
Yeah, the market had identified by the time we got to Punch Lane, and certainly by the time we got to the last, that it was a real up and off day. I think the pros out there with their sophisticated systems could see that the straight was just that little bit faster than the bend, and those horses that were getting to the straight first, which is your leaders and on-pace runners, just had an advantage. And Cool Jakey, I think he was spec'd his previous run. He's a good, tough on-pace runner, handles wet conditions. He was an easy one to fall into.
Yeah. He ticked the boxes for that kind of conditions on that day, as you have just mentioned. That's the hits and misses from the PointsBet trading floor. All right, let's get to the Group 1 review. And it was just the one race, obviously, at Morphettville this week, which was the South Australian Derby, Nico. So just quickly from a track point of view, it was out 2 metres the entire circuit. It was a good 4 throughout the day. I just thought from my perspective, I think you needed to be forward of midfield. I know they were coming wide, and you're going to add that a little bit to the lanes where they came from. But I think outside of probably On Display, which seems for me as rated the best race of the day there, that 3-year-old filly continues this progression of 3-year-old fillies. Geez, we've got an abundance of great 3-year-old fillies in Australia right now. But I thought you needed probably to be forward of midfield. I thought that was an advantage. But the lanes, because you could see them coming out wider and wider as the day progressed.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't. They just sort of wanted to edge away from that inside part of the track. Look, I take your point. I think it was advantageous to be a touch forward of midfield. That said, we still had 4 winners that were more than 3 lengths off the lead at the 600-metre mark. So I think an advantage, but it wasn't crucial to a horse's chances. I think probably race shape and luck in running was the biggest determining factor. But look, we had on the day we had, I'm just bringing up the stats now, where is it? 5 of the 9 winners are in lanes 5 to 8, Jules. So that intel we got going into the weekend was, again, pretty spot on. I hate to keep patting us on the back, but we were sort of saying that it'd be a bit kinder to be up on top of the lead than it was the previous week, and that's exactly how it panned out. That said, you still preferred to be at least 2 or 3 horses off the inside.
It's really interesting because we were true position last week when we had the 2 Group 1s, the Sangster and the Oaks or whatever it was. And then this week we had the Derby, we went out 2 metres entire. And now theoretically they have the Jewel in the Crown in Adelaide. They have the Goodwood, which is this week, and we see the return of Giga Kick, and we'll talk about that Thursday. It's going to be fascinating what they do with the rail. Like, obviously, they were off inside, so they didn't really touch it. I'm assuming they're going to go to out 4, maybe out 5. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what intel you get Thursday. And I will say to all the punters out there, really important to listen in on that because it's a really big day. There's some really good support races as well in Adelaide on that day. So it's going to be a high turnover meeting. Fascinating. As I said, I think they'll probably go out 4 metres again. I think they've got pretty good conditions weather-wise. But this track, they're getting wider and wider. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens for that Goodwood day. The Derby itself, won by a filly on the quick 7-day backup. We said there was a fair few of these horses that were on the 7-day backup. Which one could put themselves into the position? 3/4 of a second inside standard time. The last 400, 200, pretty soft compared to the rest of the day. I don't have this race rating very well, Nico. And I think if you're on the second horse, Statuario, you'd probably feel a little bit aggrieved because I thought the ride by Lockie Neindorf was outstanding on the winner to be able to suck up behind. I think a lot of people were trying to fan wide. He still ends up, 6, 7 off the fence in the end. And he probably was still 3, 4 off the fence when he sucked up behind him at the turn. But all the other horses were just in a little bit of no man's land, and in particular the second horse who just got held up and flashed late. It's not a race that I think is going to produce superstars, but I thought the ride on the winner was outstanding.
Yeah, well, it became a bit of a war of attrition, didn't it, really? As these 2,500-metre contests so often are for 3-year-olds, they're going up to the distance for the first time. They really need every bit of help that they can get. You and I have spoken for years about this now, going back to the Sectional Stars days, that a fast-run race, I'm not saying that this was really fast-run or necessarily, but fast-run races where it's taxing on a horse's stamina reserves, not speed, stamina. You really want the most economical run that you can get. So Lockie Neindorf read the play really well. He sucked up in behind them. It was a little bit Glenn Boss, Mackay Diva in the Melbourne Cups. I think he kind of knew he had a horse that had a bit of a turn of foot. He just had to make sure he pointed her in the right direction at the right time and to cuddle her up. And that's when I watched that replay, that's how it looked to me. Yeah. He just sort of got to the outside at the right time. Statuario, he's a nice progressive stage, Jules. I don't want to knock him because you identified that the winner probably just got a better run in transit. And Statuario, what I will say is that since he stepped out to these 1.5-mile trips, he's really found his little niche. So not saying he's going to be a Caulfield Melbourne Cup horse in the spring, but I think he can progress to stakes races, maybe listed in Group 3 races over these 1.5-mile distances.
Yeah, I think for a horse like that, that's going to have to be their ultimate goal. That's their North Star. Now, whether he's good enough to be able to get there, he might be a horse that tries to get his way through by winning a Herbert Power or something like that on the quick 7-day back up into a Caulfield Cup. Yeah. That's probably going to be their hope. Whether he's good enough or not, time will tell. But I 100% agree with you. Since he's got to this distance, he's starting to do some figures, because beforehand I was like, I just don't know if you've got anything basic enough to be able to be in this sort of picture.
Yeah, and I think also, like, if you have a crack at the Lexus to try and get in the Melbourne Cup that way, you know, that little backup might give him an edge over some of his rivals in a Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
And if you don't go for the Caulfield Cup, you go for that play, you can always come to Sydney for the Christmas Cup, Summer Cup and all those races. That might be right in his wheelhouse, those sort of Group 3 staying races.
You're now in the Fox's Den. So your black bookers, and you've got them from a few different states, so we'll slowly go through them, but you've got about 4 or 5. You might have 4. Kick us off.
This is at Hawkesbury. So we go back to Media World's race, the race 6, the Hawkesbury Guineas. Just Party was really well backed, sat right back. Smart ride from Nash. He cut the corner and came up the inside, which I think was at that stage of the day, even though you wanted to be up and off, they were all naturally getting away. It was her first go on a heavy track. She's by Justify, one of the wet track breeds to follow. Jules,
I read that. I read that.
You read that. She was off the map, which told us that the market thought she was going to handle the heavy. And it also tells us a couple of other things. So she obviously had the first couple of runs in some pretty handy races in the autumn, taking on broadsiding. They've backed off her. They've brought her back to the races for the easier competition now. So she ran the best last 200 metres of the day. This is a really, really good performance, and I want you to follow her going up to Brisbane or wherever she goes, particularly on wet tracks. The next horse to keep an eye out for is a horse that we mentioned 2 weeks ago. It's called Floozie from Eagle Farm.
Yeah.
It was the first of the Brisbane horses we wanted to follow. Having its first run for Tony Gollan was a fortnight ago. We said, follow this, just back it right through the grades. They put up even money. I think there was some scratching. She started about $1.45. She was the best thing all day on Saturday. She won like a good thing, and she's run fast time again. I think Tony will just keep working her through the grades. Maybe he'll try and pop her out and get her into a Stradbroke at the last minute, but she's definitely a horse that you can follow. Then I want to take you to Eagle Farm a bit later in the card. Benchmark 85, a horse called Tabs, was off the map. Black figures into $1.80. This is a horse that was with Richard Litt down here in Sydney, goes up to Mark Curry and has won its last 3 starts, all at Eagle Farm, all over 1,400 metres. Again, we might be looking at a Stradbroke horse here. Who knows where this son of Dundee ends up. But his overall time was bang on average. But he ran the second fastest last 200 metres of the day. Only Floozie went better. And he ran the fastest last 1,200 metres of the day, showing that he's got good strength as well. So Tabs goes into the black book. Then I'm going to go back down to last Thursday at Warrnambool, your way. Cleo Cat is a horse I just want to talk about. She's won 6 from 7 now for Tom Dabinick, who had a great carnival. This was her first up win. She's just got that picket fence, Jules. She's got a lovely racing pattern. She's such an uncomplicated horse. I wanted to get your thoughts. She won with 60 kilos first up, leading all the way by the best part of 3 lengths in what I thought was reasonable time. She's beaten standard time by about sort of half a second. She ran the best last 800, 600 of the entire day. You know, where can she go? There's got to be a nice race for her. I love this placement to bring her back in winter. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really interesting horse, and you're right, just building a beautiful profile, 6 from 7. So being able to win races and just progress the ratings minimally, not pushing really hard, where we see some trainers go, look, got a really nice horse, I'm going to reach for the stars and run in a black type straight away. Not doing this with Cleo Cat, that we love that. I would say if you're back in this time of year, I reckon there's 2 probably ultimate goals for a horse like this. I would love for it to run probably in the Golden Topaz, which is in Swan Hill, 1,200 metres, $150,000 plus race. I think that's the go, Swan Hill around the middle of June. And then if they wanted to continue to go that, there's that Winter Championship sort of series that goes throughout. You got to run in some heats, but it culminates, I think, first or second week at Flemington, again, 1,200 metres up the straight. As you said, uncomplicated horse. I've got no issue with it being up the straight at all. That'd be the 2 I'd look at. I reckon in particular the Topaz, I reckon, would be right up its alley because it might even be on the minimum. In a race like that, I think it'd be really hard to beat.
Yeah, okay, I'll pop it in the black book then because I love these. I love it when trainers bring horses along slowly through the winter months. Like there must have been a massive temptation to get black type with her earlier this campaign.
Yeah.
Anyway, we move on. The last horse I want you to follow goes back to Canterbury last Wednesday. While you guys had the Bool going on, They had a decent meeting out at Canterbury on Wednesday. And race 2, which was the Ole Kirk at Vinery Stud Maiden Handicap over 1,100 metres, Miss Freelove won the race. She led all the way on a pretty moderate tempo. But the 4th horse over the line, still a maiden, goes by the name of Bryant. I don't know if it's a fan of Martin Bryant or something, but it's by Brutal. So I don't know. Who knows? There's a market for everything these days. So, but it's called Bryant. Ran the best last 400 and 200 metres of the day. Overall time for this race was good. The winner was inside standard. This horse has run bang on standard time. Its finishing time here of 106.9. And it's run the best last 400 and 200 metres of the day. Just keep an eye out for it. It was only first up in its second preparation. Only had one run in its first prep. Ronnie Quinton, who's an absolute superstar of the Australian turf, he's pretty patient with his horses. This was still 460 into 390, which for a Quinton horse, first up on a bog track, Jules, you don't see that too often.
Yep.
It's run the best late splits of the day. Put it in your black book. If he finds a nice Goulburn maiden in the next 2 weeks, it'll be Ronnie time.
Beautiful. We'll be looking out for those Goulburn races for sure. That's In the Fox's Den this week with Nick Ashman. Righto, mate, let's get through the line. So we'll quickly go through just some key talking points that we might have out of the weekend that might be helpful to the punters going forward. I just wanted to start with you from that Hawkesbury meeting. Is there anything that you've seen coming out of this meeting that we can actually follow with a bit of confidence going up to the Brisbane Carnival? We know it gets really strong up there now, and I know this is just, you could say it's just a Hawkesbury meeting, but was there something that you saw that went, hey, you might be a player up there?
Well, I think the Clarendon Stakes, as I said, has produced Zoustar and Zardozi and other horses over the years. Zoustar went on and won the Size Produce. I think he ran second in the JJ Atkins, and then will go on and win the Golden Rose and Coolmore Stud Stakes. The Aerodrome wins again, and his overall time was, he beat the standard time, and he was just pretty dominant again. He's with Michael Friedman, who obviously won the Golden Slipper this year with Mahuna.
Yep.
So I think he's a horse going okay. The third horse in that race was Zebra Finch. I ended up having something on this galloper, and he looked gone at the top of the straight, and he kept on finding the line. He might be the one that appreciates the mile. He's not bred to get it, but he looks like he might be one to follow. Obviously, we touched on Media World and the runner-up Just Party.
Yep.
And the other one is Winx's half-sister, City of Lights. Now, she won the Hawkesbury Gold Quill, the Hawkesbury Crown. She only just won it. Lady Laguna had a picnic in front, couldn't quicken with the 61 kilos. City of Lights, I've just noticed, I think Joe Pride's restricting her races to sprint races this prep. They sort of went out to a mile and maybe a bit beyond last preparation. Looks like he's going to keep it as sprint races. That was her first go on a really wet track, and she absolutely lapped it up. Now, even though she doesn't have the same ability as her sister, they may have unlocked the key to her, and that's sprint races on wet tracks, and she might get a few more of them in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for her.
Beautiful. So that's Hawkesbury now, into Brisbane following up. Yes, mate.
You've had 3 days at the Bool. You did it by the pool. What are the lessons for us to learn going forward? Not only, like, can those horses that come out of it, we know it's a bit of a target carnival for a lot of trainers. There's a little bit of chest beating going on if you can get a winner at the Bool, even though it mightn't pay the same as some other races around.
Correct.
What do we do going forward with that Bool form? Do we be wary of it?
Yeah.
And also, is there a lesson to take into 2026 from the Bool?
I think the key factor here is usually the numbers will say that once you perform really well at the Bool, you can fall off the cliff a little bit. It really just struggle. Usually, and that's probably just it's actually quite a heavy track. I think this year was really interesting in that it was a bit of a reverse of how the Bool usually plays. Usually the Bool, you get the best part of the track on the Tuesday, and they're usually on the inside, and that's where they are. But the rain was about sort of on the weekend prior, and then there was a little bit of rain on the Tuesday, not much, but they were already off the fence. They were already off the fence on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, and they wanted to be there. And then come Thursday, when we'd had no rain Wednesday night into Thursday morning, all of a sudden the complete reverse happened, and you needed to be back on the inside for day 3. So I think it's one of those things where you can't ever take anything for granted with the Bull, and that's in terms of betting, your health, everything. Just don't worry about it. You just can't take it for granted, life, to be honest. So I just think always be mindful of the weather, because it really does play a big part in how Warrnambool does play. So early rain into the Tuesday, they're going to come off the fence early doors, but if there's no rain before it, then I think you've got to be on the fence up and in. So I think that's the most key, but also I'd be really mindful of a few of these horses coming out. I think they're good horses. The horses like the Cleo Cat, I don't reckon you'll see it for probably 3 weeks a month. I don't want to see horses, especially in Victoria, coming out of Melbourne and running probably within 10 days, unless it's a bog track. And we haven't got a bog track in Melbourne probably for at least at least 3 weeks, the way the weather looks. So I'd be mindful of them, but if they're sprinters and they're having 3 weeks or 4 weeks off, no issue whatsoever. I think they can bounce again. But always a fascinating carnival, that's for sure. But I was very, as I said at the top of the show, light in turnover this year, and I think that's probably going to be my thing going forward. I think when you go to Warrnambool, you want to have 1,000 bets. You just want to bet into every race, and usually it doesn't end well. I thought this year I played my cards pretty close to my chest and just played minimally and ended up in front. So maybe that might be a lesson for me that I will not learn for 2026, because I just do not learn from anything that I do in life. A quick one that I want to get to you about. We've spoken about Punch Lane, was really well backed, but I just thought it was a friendly reminder for us. What did Punch Lane sort of just again, we know this lesson, but this horse was the perfect example of it, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's a 7-day backup, heavy to heavy for a non-speed horse. It's a deadly combination. It's even more deadly, I find, in staying races, to be honest with you, because they just plough through it. But he won leading all the way at Randwick the week beforehand, and then they just piled into him again, and particularly with the way the track was playing at Hawkesbury on Saturday, he was always going to be very hard to beat. So thing to look out for, heavy track. If you're waking up on the Saturday morning, you see a heavy track, you're looking for a horse that ran 7 days ago or around 7 days ago that's coming out of a heavy track as well. And that heavy to heavy is a great, presuming they can handle the heavy, is a great form reference. And then the other final tick is if it's an on-speed horse, because it just gives you that, it minimises the bad luck for the day.
Yep. In summary, wet to wet on speed is utter gold. That'll do us, mate. Very good. Thank you again. I will see you Thursday. We will talk about the Goodwood. I think you go to Gosford. I think it's a meeting at Gosford by all reports.
The takeover target.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, hopefully Joe's there, and I will be at Caulfield. I'll see you Thursday. Thanks, pal.
See you, mate.
Okay, Ashman's out the door. We've done Hawkesbury now. Now we bring into the studio Clint Hutchison from racing.com. Hutch, how's the weekend been?
Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. Enjoyed it. Had a little result here and there, which was good. And I'm loving the energy this morning,
Great
Jules.
energy. Great energy.
You are up and about.
Yeah, no, you'll suck the life out of me soon in the next 10 minutes, so that'll be the end of that. Let's get to the track intel of Caulfield and how it played. So true position the entire circuit. Good 4, upgraded to a good 3 after race 3. We love that about our tracks. We bang on about it, but we like it. Shoot, I'm going to say it was even because I just thought you could win from anywhere, especially 1,000 to 1,200, but I think the northerly wind definitely had impact on the times because they seemed quite slow, didn't they?
They did. It seemed too slow for the state of the track, and you can see portions of it. They're running, having a really good time. But I agree with you. Not sure. I think a little bit of cover down the side probably for the first half of the card.
Good shout.
Down the chute. But, in terms of lanes, no problem anywhere. It was quick. It was fast. Wind a little bit of a factor, but track played well.
Yep. And the circle I thought was even as well. We had some leaders win, but obviously horses, if you're getting in the right spot and as you had some cover as well, then you could win. That was the track intel. Hen House, things we liked, races that I think we can follow with a bit of confidence here, Hutch. I'm going to kick us off with race 5. The winner was Oak Hill. Now, here's the factor as well. So 3/4 of a second outside standard time. So immediately you're going, okay, well, maybe the northerly wind was kicking up during this race. I just love the last 400, 200. It's monstrous compared to the rest of the day. 22.01, 11.22. I just think Oak Hill, which was well backed, and we'll get to it in the hits and misses, has got some progression. But I think also, and you had a horse in this race that runs third called Big Me, I think there's still races for these horses as well because I think it's a race that you can really bounce off.
It's an interesting one because in terms of speed figures, the way that I've done it, it's the lowest rated race of the day because they went so steady.
Correct. They're just not going to be able to do an overall time, are they?
No, but they powered home. So in terms of how you rate the race, I can add sort of 4 lengths to a figure, so to put it into anyone's sort of context. And you could probably go a little bit more than that. But, I like the powerful finish.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a nice horse, isn't
Yeah.
it? What about the run? The leader just drifts off.
To be honest, it was like just a birthday for Oak Hill. It was just presented and then obviously took the gap and exploded away. But I just like the fact that, if you're looking for horses for next start, I just think this is the perfect platform for it. You haven't had the gut buster. You just had that real beautiful blowout, that last 600. And I just think now they can get to a stage where it's going to be peak run for prep next start.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be with.
No, definitely. I tend to agree. Like the race.
Yep. Second one that we're going to go put in the Hen House here. She probably has to go in. It's race 8. It's Pride of Jenny. No, so very different to the race we just spoke about. This race has gone well inside standard time, just about close to 2 seconds. Now, the last 400, 200, every time we speak about Pride of Jenny, her last 400, 200's the worst, but that's okay because she busts them in the 8 to the 400. She runs 12.55 the last 200. It's a good number. There's no doubting that. I still don't know what to do with her. Like overall, I mean, market was a little bit soft on her, sort of 220 out to that 260, 270 come jump time. We know what she's capable of. It's just now she's done that against that opposition. That's fine. The number's still there, so it's good. So don't worry about what she's beaten. It's about what she did against the clock, and she still did very well against the clock. But now she's going to look at, say, the Doomben Cup, which is a Group 1 up in Brisbane. I still aren't 100% sold on her that she can do it again consistently for me.
Yeah, like you said, the race is rated really well, which is what happens when she competes in them. So she did what she usually does. I mean, the cynical view might be, well, yeah, but she had the weights in her favour. She's beaten She-Light by not that much, but the clock is what we're relying on more anyway. But I'm with you. I didn't back her on the weekend. It was a race where you had to be sort of tipping her, but you wouldn't. I mean, from a wagering aspect, I'm like, well, I just don't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what to do with her because she's had some issues. We know her best is elite, as elite as it gets, but they're going to continue on. What's her best trip for you? I'm starting to think a mile might nearly be her best trip.
I think it is. I just think that's where she gets to free flow a little bit and doesn't get that pressure put on maybe a little bit early at the 2000, and then she just, I think it is. I know we've got the Queen Elizabeth in the back of our minds, which was her big number, but that was just a weird race, really, wasn't it, in Sydney?
Just let it go. It was
correct.
Ridiculous.
But I think other than that, her big numbers have been at that 1600.
Her record is unbelievable at the mile. And the reason why I think it's her best trip is because you don't get, some of those races, as we've seen over the 2000, she'll knock a few off on the way. Yeah. But those other elite or, quality horses that keep the powder dry early can get her late. Whereas over the mile, there's no hiding with her.
Yeah.
You've got to run it out strong. And so anyway, that's just my thoughts on her. I don't know what to do with her going forward. So I'm not sure we're really helping the punters.
No, we're not. But I think it's a really good point you mentioned that you stayed out and I stayed out as well. And I think if the punters want to look at what the market did with this whole race overall, the bigger players that moved these markets stayed out as well, you could see. Because we know her best, she would have started at $1.60. She just would have.
Yes.
Fact. If you knew the market, if the bigger guys would go, Pride of Jenny's going to do her number.
So was it the fact that they just
stayed
sure?
out because nothing else was backed, really. I mean, I know they played around the edges with She-Light and another horse, I think, as well. But that was just minimal. That's just poking around. There was no big hard press on anything
but
in
it was
particular.
the same, wasn't it, first up?
Yeah, correct.
She got out to $3.80.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And again, probably in that race, they might have been happy to be against her a little bit in that race and push into a couple others. But I think on Saturday, we really saw that I thought the market said, I don't know. And I'm talking, when I say market, the big guys in particular were like, we've got no idea. Because if they wanted to play, they would have put her into the red. They just would have from that 220.
It's the kind of one where if you saw money coming for her, I reckon it would have been an avalanche.
Yeah, correct. It wouldn't have stopped. It wouldn't have stopped. If a horse had to be reshot, it just would have continued down falling and absolutely fell through into China. So that's the Hen House this week, punters. Okay, let's get to the doghouse races that I'm a little bit worried about going forward here, Hutch. And surprise, surprise, it's a 2-year-old race to kick off. So Cleo wins.
Again. Here he goes again.
Well, we've been upbeat about 2-year-olds for a little bit. We found a couple. And then you put the swings on them. So anyway, Cleo wins this race. It's half a second outside standard time. They don't beat 12.2. They run 12.31 the last 200. So that worries me. I know it sat off them and it's just, I don't know, maybe in the right spot. I thought the ride was really good. We're going to get to a ride on the favourite on this in the setting fire to it. So we're setting that up for that. Yeah. I don't think it had much guts to it this race. No
I'm with you. No, it didn't rate anything special. They went quick. And, what did the winner miss it by 4 or 5? I don't know about the depth of the race. It
was a small field. I think the winner probably was the one that was scratched and didn't end up running.
We both liked it, I think.
Prestige Schnitzel, So I don't know if that was an issue. I don't think it said VC, so whether they just said, we'll run the other one, I'm not sure. But it might go around next week or something. I don't know. But it's going into the doghouse. The other one, the race is going into the doghouse, which you might disagree with, but we'll see what happens here. It was race 2. Here comes the Star Wins a Race. It was first up. Maybe it's winner only, but again, now 3/4 of a second outside standard time. Now, possibly that because of the northerly wind as well, as you mentioned earlier, that the northerly wind was probably in play, especially early doors. Last 400, 200 though, when they're going that far outside standard time, I need them to be coming home like, Oak Hill comes home 11.22, right? This horse comes home 11.81.
Yeah, no, I'm not with this race.
This is a worry for me.
This wasn't a race. I don't think going into the meeting that you would have been really.
Yeah, they seemed quite even, didn't they?
Yeah,
the market didn't really want to identify with.
Not
too
even
much
enough for me to find the winner. But no, it was. I'm not sure. It was a good effort first up, but
a good effort for it. But I just think going forward, I think the market might be a bit against this race. So let's put it into the doghouse as well. 2 races 1 and 2, doghouse. Wolf. Hits and misses from the PointsBet trading floor here, Hutch. So let's go through these races and these horses and just see if there's anything there that maybe we want to progress and go, hey, no, keep this one in our back pocket because we might want to bear with it. Race 2, we just spoke about it going into the doghouse, but Gracie's Reign was $4 into $2.85. It runs second, and you could say, it was a good, serviceable run, but I just want to be probably against it.
I was with Gracie's Reign, and I know there may have been a little bit of a breeze in down the side there, but no, it had its chance for mine. I couldn't go again. I thought it looked a great race for her there.
Yeah, it was probably the opportunity, and hence why the market wanted to be with it. Do you know what I mean? So now it's like, okay, there's that 285. It probably anchors it down in terms of when people look at the SP and go, okay, it's going to be right in the race. Let's be off it and let's try and go somewhere else.
Let her go.
Well, race 5, I think we're with this horse, Oak Hill, $3.90 into $3.10 hits. Let's follow this horse.
He's where do they go with a horse like this? He seems like he's a group horse, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I thought he would be like a Group 3 class. Horse prior. Yeah, he's at least that, I think, going forward. He's got an unbelievable turn of foot. You mentioned those sectionals.
Yeah.
Not many can reel off those.
No, correct. Really strong. The winter final, that 1,200 metres around July, maybe 1,200 metres there, or the Golden Topaz around in June, maybe a race like that he could go to without knowing. Don't know the camp, don't know what they're going to do. But I think they're probably it's a listed race, that winter champs final.
Well, he's been in unbelievable form, the prep. So he's probably one of his best runs is when he got beat at the Valley out wide when you couldn't make any ground when there was a Travelator on the inside. So he's a good horse.
Valley, was it disappointing, was it? What a surprise. Race 6, Immediacy. I'm starting to really like this horse. I think, it was bad last prep, but we know that it's got the guts behind it. Ran 4th to Riff Rocket in a Rose Hill Guineas and 4th in a Derby. $3.20 into $1.65. I know there's some deductions into that, punters. I think he's a horse we can keep following.
Well, you know what? I can't knock him, but I'd like to.
Well, you find a way. You always find a way.
I would find a way. I don't know. He just had the perfect
He did have everything set up, didn't he?
He
did. Saturday was his day.
He ran a pretty good number. But will he get it again? I don't know. People are going to see that SP and go, and I think he might be shorter than what he should be. Depending on where they go. So, look, there's no major knock for me, but I'm not completely sold on it.
Yeah, and I don't know where he goes, but I was saying this earlier with Nick in terms of what goes to Brisbane. Like, I think you go to a Doomben Cup with this. It's a bridge too far for me in terms of running into a Doomben Cup against a horse like, say, Buckaroo. I think that's at weight for age. If I was doing that now, I'd be like, not so sure. Yeah. But if you play off the edges a little bit, maybe there's a race in him. I think in the spring, a race like the Naturalism. 2,000 metres Naturalism might be his go. So it's just a Group 3 race, and then if you win it, you sort of get the golden ticket into the Caulfield Cup. That's where I'd play him. That's where I want to play him.
They had him down to potentially run the Bull, didn't they? They scratched him.
Yeah, he was originally in the Warrnambool Cup as favourite, but that 20 straight from 1,600 or whatever it was to 2,350 was not a good recipe for him. I think it was really well placed.
I think they decided to want to run here and then go to a race in Brisbane, so we'll wait and see. But it doesn't sound like you'll be with him in Queensland.
Not if he goes against the top brass. I don't think so, Race 7, the Muffin Man. I think there's going to be 2 deciding factors here. 1 for, 1 against. I'm for. $5 into $2.75. It's a miss. I reckon there was a let-up from the 1,600 metres. It had just about 3 weeks, nearly 4 weeks off. First go 2,000 metres into prep's always the hardest one. I'm going to be driving really hard into the Muffin Man next start. I'm going to eat his head off because I reckon he is one hell of a bet. One hell of a bet now. If they can get within 10 to 14 days of 2,000 metres again with this horse, don't go to 2,200. Just stay at 2,000. Find a race. Oh my gosh, he's a bet.
It was a good run. It was a great run, actually. I mean, apart from all the factors that you've decided in, just the way the race unfolded for him.
Yeah, correct.
So, and he surprised me at Flemington how well he ran in that race, and the way he got to the line. I thought, oh, interesting here, and there's something to work with.
Yep.
He's a bit better than I thought.
Yeah, he's a good horse, the Muffin Man. So as I said, get him to 2,000 again, and we'll be with him. Race 8, Pounding. This was just against Pride of Jenny. $14 into $5. Miss runs third. I suppose if you took the each way price at that. Bet at that price, you probably have won. We know Pounding. I mean, we know what he's capable of.
He's going to pick up his checks through the spring. He
Yeah.
might, the winter. He might flick one here or there. But if he taught some winter mile championship or something, won't he?
Something like that. We know him pretty well, so there's nothing sort of new
won't be
there.
following.
Last was the last race. There was only 9 races. Hughes is an interesting horse for me. He was going really well. So the market said, yes, we want to be with you. $5 into $3. He's ran well again. I'd say he's probably reached the level now. I don't know if there's another progression in him, but he's still going to be a pretty good horse if you owned him. I think
it'll be a good form race, that last race.
Yeah.
They went really hard. The winner was an excellent run, no strings attached.
Yes.
That was a top win. Top ride, Ethan Brown. How good is he going?
He's so very, very good.
He's riding well, and that horse the winner's good. I think Hughes can win again. Just needs the right sort of setup. They went pretty quick.
Sunshine in My Pocket was the winner too, sorry.
Yeah, what did I call it?
No strings attached, which sort of finished.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sunshine in My Pocket.
Yep.
Same colours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yep. So there's no excuse for that. That's the hits and misses. There was a big miss there at the end. All right, let's get setting fire to it here, Hutch. So race 1 at Caulfield. It was a small field. It was 5 horses. And yes, there might have been wind, but you got the $2.70 favourite in Prestige Olay, and you jump. When the barrier's open, we'll watch this right now. This is where the race is won and lost. Right there. In that first 100 metres, Prestige Olay, I think, jumps probably 3/4 in front.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know the other horse is ridden really aggressively to try and lead, but I just think you've just got to hold your spot. I just think you go leaders back, you then it becomes out of your control. Now, whether this horse wins the race or not, neither here nor there. It's just about at that stage, I think if you were on Prestige Olay, your cash was into the fire.
Yeah, I think it's a fair call. I mean, looking at the way the race broke down, I was surprised at how quick they went, though.
Mm.
And in defence for the rider, and I'll defend him a little bit here, they have gone pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I understand holding your spot early. Maybe Blake decides to take a sit on the newcomer, who I don't think many would have had leading. I can't believe they led on it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe how quick he went on it either.
Yeah.
I agree with it in essence, but in this instance, it wasn't a good watch. And once you hand up, leaders back Caulfield, the coffin, it's the worst spot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just you just become a victim of everything else that might happen around you. And I think just in that circumstance, if you are on, whether you're on a favourite or not a favourite, I suppose, if you just jump clean, I just think you have to take the spot. And if you get beaten and you get run down, then you cop it and everyone goes, yep, I'm fine with that.
He is a young lad, I
Yeah,
suppose.
Luke Cartwright. And I'm not, putting him into the fire as well. But I'm just like, I just reckon he'll learn from that and just go, you know what? And I don't know what the connections. And this is the other part too. He's a 3-kilo apprentice who might have been just very well told, into that wind, I want you to take a sit. It's a young horse. I do not want to be leading into it. And maybe that's the connections then. And so it's on them saying, hey, if you're here to win the race, put yourself in a spot to win the race.
Well, I think either that leading, or if you're going to hand up, you've got to be very proactive early to try and peel one off and hold that one spot. Like, get off the fence, give yourself that opportunity, and mid-race, maybe there's that opportunity for him. So don't just sit there and just be a victim or sort of,
passenger of what's going to happen.
What's going to happen. You got to work out early. If I'm handing that spot up, I want to give myself an opportunity to get off. The good ones do it.
Yeah, absolutely, because then they can actually control the speed, because you can decide to go at the 600 metres or the 450 or whenever you might want to go. So I think it's a really good point, but that's the setting fire to it this week. Race 1, Prestige Olay. All right, in the Fox's Den here. So Black Booker's Hutch from this meeting. I found 2, and they're interesting ones here. So we've spoken about this a lot. The staying races in Victoria are a little bit like take your turns and very slowly run races. Now, the United Nations has had 4 runs this prep, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's had 4 runs this prep. $71, $26, $26.51. The market hates it, right? And there's probably a good reason.
There's a reason
yeah,
for that.
there's probably a good reason. Now, I just think...
No.
I just think we're going to get a price about this horse. They take it in turns. They might be a little bit more proactive. I think they put a senior jockey on and we get double figures. Just have something little.
I like
on.
this though. At least
Just have
it's going
something
to be
little
a price.
It's going to be a price, I think, United Nations. Now, he might not be much good, but I didn't think he had much luck. And I just reckon now Senior Jock goes on, we're going to get a price about him. And as I said, I don't think there's much depth in our staying races.
Well, it's a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
It's, whose turn is it
And this is
week?
the thing. And I just think this horse might now be ready. Fifth run prep off a long break. That's the go. The second one that goes in is the Muffin Man, which we spoke about. Second go, 2,000 metres. This will be the peak run for the prep. I think it's a really nice horse. Be with it. United Nations, the Muffin Man. You've got a couple.
I've got a couple from the Bool.
Yes, good.
My one runner that I'll throw in from Caulfield be Oxford Blue. I thought, why would that cover the trip? It wasn't a bad
That's the same
run.
race as the Muffin Man, wasn't it?
The Muffin Man. I think we can trust the race, actually. But
Yep.
the two that I've got from the Bool are from the same race as well, actually. Firstly, the winner. I know we've been bashing the 2-year-olds.
Yes.
Mrs. and Glacier
You found one.
was pretty decent in winning. And I think, she put up not a bad figure here compared to the older horses on the day. The Bool form, you got to pick and choose a little bit which races to follow.
Yep.
But I think this race will work out to be okay. I'm not sure that some of these Vobis races in general have been good, but I think the time of this particular race was good.
Yep.
Now, in that event, there was an eye-catching run
Ooh, yes.
from Miss Ole.
Okay, so this was really well backed,
Ole.
wasn't
Is
it?
this
Yeah,
the-
no,
is
it's
this
Ole.
another Ole again?
Look,
Look,
this horse is well backed, wasn't it?
the charts. It was really short. And I don't know if it was $20 or something like that,
something
but
big.
it started $4.20 anyway.
wow.
Missed a kick by 4 or 5 as they do when you've had your
had
last
something
on.
on. Yeah, yes.
And then rattles home and hits the line beautifully. Clint McDonald, I think, got some nice horses, Clint.
Has.
And she'll win a maiden. But
Yep.
I'm not sure where they'll go, but she'll be winning.
All right, very good. So the two from Warrnambool and Oxford Blue for you for In the Fox's Den.
Yep.
And you had my two, which I won't repeat because we're keeping it quiet, especially the United Nations one. Hey, we're done. We're out.
Well,
Oh,
we've got
no,
to talk
actually,
about
we've got to
something.
Yeah, we've got to talk
We've got a
about
couple
footy.
of things to talk about.
Oh, well, geez.
Well, one of them's racing. I want to talk to you about something that's sort of been niggling my mind.
yes, good.
What about we watch a lot of races, and I know jockeys at different tracks around Australia. I think it's almost an epidemic. They can lead, and they're supposedly trying to find the better ground. We're leading and rolling off in the straight.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of times that this is presenting the winning run to the horse on its back is quite incredible. Oak Hill was one on the
Oak Hill seems
weekend. Now
high.
that's not the horse,
Yeah,
the rider
yeah.
trying to come off the fence, but there's a lot of races around. And back in the day, they just wouldn't do that. But
Do you reckon maybe they're shouting and saying, "Oh yeah, there's a sling in it for me"? I'm not thinking that. I'm not thinking that. I didn't say that out loud.
I know we get track walkers. They're probably right. It might be better off. So my question is this. I mean, are you a fan of it, one? And I know it might be slightly better ground there, but you're also providing an opportunity and giving away your advantage when you're leading on the fence. Is it worth it?
Yeah, no. So I think no doubt, and maybe at Caulfield too, because you look at those early races, they did want to come off like to sort of lane 2, but then Oak Hill comes up on the inside and Pride
I'll
of
give you
Genius.
another one. Femidile, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So Statutaria's on the back.
Oh,
Like coming
yeah.
back to get out. Winner comes straight through underneath you.
yeah.
I mean, it happens a lot.
yeah.
For this
It was a good
perceived
ride by
better
Lockie Neindorf. We spoke about it earlier because we did that race, and he sucked up and he took the initiative. I thought, and I get you probably had to be off, but he said, "Look, I'm just going to take the shortened way here, and then I'll get out
Cut the
further,
corner,
and then
get
I'll
out."
get out to where I need to get in the straight." It was a brilliant ride. I think you've got a very good point here because I would always want to just hold my position and make them come around me in the first place because they've still got to shift heels and then come around me. So they've still got to do something that they don't want to do. If you can keep them in the straight line, well, they're going, fine, that's fine. Even if I'm sometimes going into the IG, then still they're
And you know
staying
what?
straight.
I don't think it's a lot of the jock. I think a lot of that is instructions from trainers and connections, maybe that go, we want you to get out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just something to bear
Something
in
to
mind.
look out
So
for.
I don't-
I'm gonna, when you don't think there's many of your own car on the road, and then you buy the car, and then everyone seems to have the car. I'll be watching these races, and
just
everything
watch
will be
it
doing-
now.
They'll be doing it.
Because for me,
And
it's a
just happening.
frustration.
It's going to be happening.
It's a bit like some of the umpiring, it gets a bit frustrating.
Yeah, you're starting. I think we go back to one umpire. I think that'll be just about right. I don't think we need 4 all at once. But in terms of that, you sent out a tweet on Saturday night saying the Cats, I think they can turn it around.
Yes.
You were bang on. Now,
How good.
wasn't that an easy?
Your team.
Wasn't that an easy watch? Was that an easy
What a
watch?
game. And you were there.
No, I wasn't there. I just said I wasn't there. I watched through the screen of the TV. I didn't go.
I thought you were going.
No, didn't go.
That was a great game. And your
Was.
team.
And they hit the overs.
don't
The
know how they
171 and a half seemed light, so we got the overs there. We got the chocolates.
Because that's what you suggested.
I did
so it
suggest
was a nice bit of
followed the
teamwork there.
strength. Yeah, we were good. But also, this game last night, we've got to talk about this for the punters out there because there's now a new edge because daylight savings is dead right in eastern states time. These night games, especially up in Brisbane, Gold Coast, even Sydney, there's a thing called a dew point. And once the dew point gets close to the temperature, the ball becomes slippery. So it's not even wet. Now, it was wet up last night, so the unders was the greatest bet of all time. But this is our new thing. You always check out the dew point now, mate.
I was on the unders last night too. I was loving the rain when it came and the low scores. I tell you what, when they're off, they're off. It was 174
and a half.
And they never looked like getting anywhere near
17 at quarter time, you knew you were safe.
But can I just say this?
Yeah. Yes.
This dew point.
Yes.
These areas from you.
I know.
It's stepping into the areas when you discovered why they were breaking records at the Olympic pool. I'm very proud of you. You've done your research. It's a little different. Hey, but if it works.
Well, at the moment, I'm winning. So when I start to lose, then it's like, what the hell are you doing talking about a dew point? What is that? It's not even a thing. But anyway, that's what we're going with. Dew point, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll see you next week.
Yep.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.